For all the good work you do, Joseph?
It is nice to be recognized. Certainly, that's important. It's nice to be nominated and to win the awards. But the main thing behind all of that is the work itself and the opportunity all these years. I've been a travel writer for about 40, and we've done the television show. This is our 11th season, so for about since 2007 was our first release. We've had the opportunity to go around the world and to meet wonderful people and to create something that allows us to be a force for good in the world and a positive influence to the people we meet and, of course, to the viewers who watch our shows. And it's lovely that we hear from them, too, and they reinforce the work that we do. And,
yes.
So, yes, you're right. Thank you very much.
Well, you know what? You're kind of a down-home, you and your wife, Julie, and you work really hard at this, but what comes across on your fantastic TravelScope shows is the fact that you're a people person, that you love people, and that you love what you're doing, and there's this really great joy of life that you that's definitely conveyed in your shows.
Well, thank you. That's something something we do on purpose. That's the way we feel, and I'm glad it comes through. On our website, travelscope.net, we have our publication, a magazine that's been around now since 1985 in some form or another. And we try to express that joie de vivre, or the joy of life and the joy of travel, and also an understanding of all the great attributes that travel gives you, everything that travel gives you. Traveling allows you to meet other people and get out of your own little perspective and understand there's another way of looking at the world. Travel opens up horizons to you. Of course, you see beautiful things. You taste wonderful food. You get to have dance and participate in other people's cultures, and there's really nothing better than that. So I'm glad
Yes.
you picked that up, and we try to do that in everything we do. For instance, we have a tour.
I know that Joseph's on the road, and he just kind of went into that little spot there. He's driving from Topanga, and he let me know that he says, I'm going to be driving because I have an appointment I've got to get to from Topanga. Are you back, Joseph?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You must have gone around a corner in Topanga or something.
You know how Topanga is.
Yes,
it's
I do.
All mountains. And when I get down to PCH, maybe it'll be a little better, but I'm sorry that I am on the road here.
Oh, no, I understand it. You stay so busy, and I have to say, I used to live in Topanga for about 3 or 4 years, and I love Topanga. And, it's one of those few places in Los Angeles that has not changed over all the years since I was there about 35 years ago. And I go back and I say, wow, it's still a magical place. I still love it. They still have the little store, the homegrown kind of store, and the same kind of people. But I have to say, Joseph, there's probably only a couple dozen at most people that own their own tuxedo. But I assume after all these Emmy Awards and these celebrations, you bought a tuxedo, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I've got a couple. Yeah. So thank you very much for everything you've done and said about the show, and the idea of putting across the joy of life and the joy of travel is very important to us. And before I got disconnected, I'm going to explain that we're trying to we're doing a tour that's basically going to be recreating my trip to France and the show we did on the Rhone River. And it's going to be, the dates are, it'll be next year, and the best thing people can do is to go to our website, travelscope.net, and sign up for our newsletter, and we'll keep them abreast of everything we do. But, I love France. France is one of my favorite places in the world, and the expression joie de vivre is French.
Yes.
And so they say it well, the joy of life, and by pretty much recreating our show on the Rhone River, and the different experiences that we had. People will be able to come and join us on it's a river cruise aboard the Emerald Waterways, which is Emerald Cruises, and it's a fabulous fabulous ship, and it's a wonderful experience that we're going to have. And so I hope people will, like I said, go to our website, travelscope.net, sign up for our newsletters, and join us on the trip.
I want to, because you know what? I've done probably about 15 cruises, but I've never done a river cruise, and and I've heard Emerald is one of the best.
Emerald is one of the best, and it's very comfortable. It's not a stuffy cruise. The one thing I like about Emerald is that they do what we've been saying for years and years, is that travelers these days really want authentic experiences with the people in the country. They also want the time to explore on their own, and the days of, if it's Tuesday, it must be Belgium kind of tours are dead and gone. And that's what, for a cruise, that's exactly what they do. They put together special events that are exclusive to the passengers, which allows them to have interactions with the people in the destinations. And then they have a number of other different opportunities where people can go off on their own and carry their own tour guide with them electronically, and have a guide of the city they're in. Like, we're going to be in Lyon, we're going to be in Chateau Neuf de Pape, we're going to be in Avignon, and people will be able to walk around on their own or walk in a group and have an experience that is a combination of having the luxury of the guided tour, and also the luxury of being on a fantastic riverboat in great accommodations, fabulous food on board, so that you don't have to worry about packing every night and all those other things that, as we get older, we're kind of tired of doing.
Yep.
So it's going to be a luxury trip, but in a very authentic, with a lot of authentic experiences. And of course, Julie and I will be on board and sharing with our fellow passengers our insights and our perspective on the destinations, and certainly on life and on travel. So it should be a fabulous trip.
I really want to go. I really do. Is that July? When does it start?
Right. It's going to be next year.
Oh, next year.
But we're starting. We're going to have it's July 11th through July 18th, 2020.
Uh-huh.
So we're starting to get the word out now. And as I mentioned, if people go to travelscope.net and sign up for our newsletter, they'll get all the information. They'll be kept abreast of how things are being set up. We're going to have it all posted on our website very soon, so people can book early, and I certainly advise them to do that.
I know. You do great. You do great ones. I remember you did the one to Cuba, and of course you got connections in Cuba, so that was great, and it's wonderful that you're doing the one on Emerald, that people can join you, because you're so open and friendly, and that comes across, as I said. So to be able to actually be on a cruise with you, I'm sure people feel like they already know you. Don't they say that all the time, Joseph? I feel like I know you.
Yes, we get, like I mentioned earlier, we get wonderful phone calls and emails and communications on our social media outlets. And, excuse me,
mm-hmm.
And people are really very, very complimentary, and they do feel like we're all friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll let you cough there while I mention the fact that also it's just so exciting. I can't believe you just go nonstop. You have done 130 episodes, Joseph, and they're always so engaging. And, of course, these Emmys on top of that. So you're going into your next series, and I have to give a shout-out to the fact that you've done so much to help people understand Taiwan. And once again, in this next series, you did, I guess you already shot it. Or have you already done the one in Taiwan?
We have done we did two shows in Taiwan this year, as it turned out. One covering their famous national park, Coco National Park, the different hikes and the different people that we met there. It's they call it the Grand Canyon of Taiwan.
Huh.
Might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but one of the beautiful things about the Barocco Gorge is that the stone is marble. So there's not too many hiking trails where you can walk on marble and see some beautiful sights. So that's the Barocco National Park episode. and then we go and continue staying up in the mountains and visit the mountain villages and the indigenous cultures of Taiwan. Taiwan has 16 indigenous cultures. They're only a small percentage of the population now, having suffered through centuries of oppression and suppression by, Japanese colonialists and other powers. So they're a small population, but it's a very rich Taiwanese population. The Taiwanese government has recognized the value and the richness of these cultures to their culture, and they're doing a lot in the last 10 years, I would say, to promote for travelers to get to know the areas where the indigenous people live, to partake in their festivals and their customs and traditions. And it's a whole side of Taiwan that many visitors miss. Mm-hmm. And we've always talked about it on our show, because as you know, people are the most important thing about any travel experience. And but we've always talked about it on our show, but this show, we're going to be devoting a whole show to the indigenous people that we meet in the small mountain villages of Taiwan.
Now, you must have a translator that comes, because in the small mountainous villages, they probably don't speak English, do they?
Oh, you're exactly right. Hardly at all. We do have guides and people who are helping us with the language, and also some of the people who travel with us as guides have problems with the language themselves, because the indigenous people have their own dialect and their own languages. So when we get to the indigenous villages, as you'll see on this episode devoted to the mountain villages and cultures of Taiwan, they have to have a translator for themselves. Mm-hmm. So these are really very unique and special cultures, and as I say, a side of Taiwan that many people miss, mm-hmm. but they should not miss. But there's 16 indigenous people 16 indigenous groups in Taiwan, and in the mountains. A lot of them live in the mountains because that's where they were chased to throughout the centuries. But they also populate some of the islands, and if you really make an effort, you can include that in your travel experience in Taiwan.
Well, if you're just tuning in, I'm talking to Joseph Rosendo, who's calling in on his road. Just came down for Topanga, and we're talking about his new Emmy that he was nominated for. Now 19 Emmy nominations, and of course those are always just so well recognized because you deserve it. And his new season, season 11, is coming out. And of course I do want to include what you say in your press release. You build bridges, not walls, which is your whole feeling is that wonderful experience of embracing life and people. And I know you were embraced by Taiwan. They gave you an award and recognized you for all you've done for tourism there, which was quite an honor.
Oh, it was fabulous. Yeah, we got presented by the vice president of the country, and it was a huge audience of other awardees. But this was a major award, the top award.
And he must be going around one of those corners there, so I'm going to fill in. Also, we just lost you for a second, but I'm saying that was just because they recognize what you've done, Joseph, for tourism. And like you say, you go to places people had no idea existed. You're going to places that people now, I'm sure, going, gosh, more and more people are realizing, and you know this, that the typical days of cruising, I hear that siren. The typical days of cruising, unfortunately, on these big cruise liners are almost ruining the typical cities that you go to, like Venice and like Cinque Terre and even Barcelona. People now need to look out to go to places like this place in Taiwan and other places so that they don't really overpopulate and ruin the other cities, right?
That's exactly right. I hope we're still talking to each other.
Yes, I got you now.
I'm on PCH, and it goes in and out here. But in any case, yes, I would agree with you. And also, one tip I would give for people who are traveling on the larger cruise lines to some of these destinations, it's very important to participate in the culture. I know you get food on board, you have dinner on board, but have a lunch in your destination. Certainly frequent the cafes, the vendors of the destination. We hear that in many places where we travel, that people say, well, great, we have all these cruise ships in, but the people come on, they take their tours, and they hop right back on.
Mm-hmm.
They have their lunch on board, have dinner on board, have their activities, and they don't participate in the destination any more than just taking a quick glance at it. That is not helpful.
Yes.
So I would say, if you're going to go on a cruise, or you're going to see all these places for a day or a few hours, be sure to get involved as much as you can in the culture and know that your presence there can either hurt them or help them.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's talk about a couple of other things in the upcoming series season 11. I love the fact that you're going to go to Maine, and Maine has these wonderful people again. And how did you experience and celebrate Maine when you were there?
Well, we were in Portland, the largest city of Maine, and we did some of the city attractions there. This show has a theme of the city and country, because we had the town experiences in Portland, and then we went out to the peninsula, out into the smaller towns once again, and had a fabulous time out there in some of the smaller villages and the fishing villages, and like Stonington out on the Bluebell Peninsula. And so we were able to get a combination of both the town and country experiences. And the people, you don't have to travel halfway around the world to have an authentic cultural people-to-people experience. I mean, it's great. We go to some exotic destination, that's wonderful. And it helps get you out, break you completely from your comfort zone. But, there are wonderful people that live in this country, and all you have to do is reach out and meet with them and open up your heart and open up your mind to them, and you can have a cultural experience here at home as well. Another show that we did close to home is we went up to Ottawa in Canada, and then and did a boat trip, another boat trip it seems, but it was a drive your own boat experience on the Rideau Canal from Ottawa down towards Kingston in Ontario, Canada. And once again, that was a close to home, a very comfortable experience, and met some wonderful Canadians in the small villages and towns along the canal. So there's a lot of exciting experiences we can have close to home. It's just a matter of where your perspective is and the effort that you make. A trip starts with you.
Mm-hmm. It does, and your perspective, and also letting go of your fears and embracing life, and that's what you do so beautifully. I noticed that you mentioned something I didn't even know, that Maine is 80% forest wilderness. I always think of the coastline. I never think of it as a place you go for forest wilderness.
Yeah, it has a wonderful coastline, and you're right, it has a heritage, fishing and boating and the building of boats. It has a long history there. But yes, I was surprised myself. 80%, the most forested state in the Union.
Wow.
And most of the people live in Portland. The rest of the state is fairly sparsely populated. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of elbow room in Maine, and I advise people to get out there and take advantage of the wonderful natural nature experiences that you can have.
I wanted to ask you here briefly, there's been a lot of travel news in this last week, as you know. The one that surprised a lot of people was the Viking Sky running into trouble. It's only a 2-year-old ship, a cruise ship that was, touted. A lot of people were just loving the Viking lines, and here it is, losing its engines, going out. There's some questions about whether it should have gone out because storm warnings, but I think people are so used to cruising now, they never think twice that there really can be a Mayday call and there has to be an evacuation of a ship. Were you surprised by that news?
Well, I'm not surprised by almost anything. I mean, when you think about the trouble that the airline, Boeing, just recently had, the tragedy of 2 planes going down and over 300 people being killed. and there's a lot of questions regarding that.
Yep.
There's a lot of questions regarding how much they knew ahead of time and how lax the servicing was, and that is really it's unspeakable
yep.
that any company would be taking risks with people's lives. So I think when I fly a lot. I fly thousands and thousands and thousands of miles a year. And I put my life, and as all my fellow travelers do, in the hands of an airline company. And I expect them to do everything they can. Tragedies do happen no matter what, but to make it as safe as possible. But you're right that there are certain situations that we get in where we have this unrealistic sense of being safe and comfortable. Everything has a risk, and most of the time it's a low risk. But so to answer your question, no, I wasn't surprised, and I'm not surprised that often drives people to do things that they shouldn't do. I'm not surprised by that, particularly in this day and age.
Yeah, it is sad when we see money as a motivating force, and I know that's for sure. We see, as you know, you fly a lot, and we've seen the difference in airline travel in the last 20 years as more and more airline companies want to make more and more money, and what they're doing is losing, except for some of the Dubai airlines and some of the aircraft there, but a lot of the American airlines, unfortunately, are really just going for the most amount of money they could make, and I think that's just become obvious, and it's sad.
Yeah, it's become like a bus trip that you're on, and service has really gone out the window. Even kindness and politeness has gone out the window more and more these days. We're flying to Japan on Tuesday for a 14-day trip. My wife wants to see the snow monkeys of the north, and we're going to go to Kyoto and Osaka, and on a vacation. Actually, it's an unusual thing for us, but we're flying EVA Air, and I certainly recommend them. Often the foreign airlines are doing a better job.
Yep.
But I've had wonderful experiences on EVA Air. We've flown with them many times to Taiwan, one destination. We also flew them to Vietnam recently, and we're going to be taking them to Japan. So there are airlines still that take that service is still an important part of the equation for them. It's not all about how many bodies they can pack into a plane, and they still have a sense of service. So you could, with a little bit of care and research and time, you can end up still having a wonderful experience in the air and a safe experience in the air.
I've heard about them.
The problem.
Yeah, I've heard EVA is good, and I had just recently only heard of them in the last couple of months from a friend who was going to Thailand, who lives there, and mentioned them, and I had not been aware of them. Right. So it's good to know the alternatives. Sometimes we actually are prisoners of our mileage program, and and they know this. The airline companies are very aware that we are trying to make our miles, right? So we always stick with one airline, and even if we don't like it, we stay just to get the miles, and then it's like, well, I don't know if that's worth it anymore, right? I'm just not sure if that's really worth it anymore. When you don't get the service, you just get the miles, right? But you have always been an adventurer, and I can't help but laughing when I hear that you're taking a vacation. Because it seems like all of your trips are vacations, but people don't understand the work that really goes in to making a TV show. There's a lot of work behind the scenes, and then, of course, afterwards with the editing. So it's kind of funny, and I've seen pictures of some of the northern Japan areas, and it's supposed to be just beautiful. Are you going to stay in bed and breakfast in some of those mineral places that have mineral baths as well?
Absolutely, that's what we're doing. That's part of the snow monkey experience. And they're going to be in the hot tubs, and so are we. So, Cindy, I have arrived at my destination. I'm going to pop out of here, but I want to remind everybody that if you'd like to find out about our upcoming tour to France, go to our website, travelscope.net, and sign up for our newsletter and keep abreast of everything we're doing. And I really appreciate everything you do, Cindy, and all the support you've given us here at Travel Scott.
Well, I just adore you, and I just have to close it with this interview with you saying, travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. That's what you always say, Mark Twain's famous words at the end of each of your shows, right?
You're exactly right. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah,
Take care.
And you do too. Thank you so much for calling.
All right. Have a great day.
Okay, aloha. It's always a treat to talk to Joseph.